Welcome to Truth to Power for You. I'm your host, Brian Kasher. Truth to Power for You is a mini-series produced for organizers and people like you who want to improve the human condition. While the corporate media is out there chasing and generating profits covering the daily distraction, Truth to Power for You is about organizing for action. Through interviews with organizers, musicians, and/or artists, sharing ideas, programs, and methods, our goal is to help you foster change in your own corner of the world. This episode's featured changemaker is Braxton Winston. Braxton shares his personal experience in the aftermath of Keith Lamont Scott's execution by city police. Braxton's role as a citizen journalist and also his philosophy of why and how people get involved in making change. Good stuff. Our musical guest for this episode is Asheville's own Austin Haynes with a spoken word version of his insightful number, Let's Go. We also visit with a number of people engaged in the Fight for 15 campaign, sharing their views on why we need to engage and organize. You know, Truth to Power for You is not corporate produced. We're not corporate funded, but instead we offer you real-life examples of what people do to improve the human condition. Our goal is to share proven ideas on how you can secure change in your own part of the world. In turn, you can help us by liking and commenting on our Facebook page, our YouTube, what have you, about where you're watching from and what issues are important in your own part of the world. Okay. Let's roll. Braxton Winston is a Davidson College graduate, a husband, and a father. Many of you may know Braxton for his citizen journalism efforts, like live streaming timely current events, or for his knack of, well, speaking truth to power. Braxton has followed his heart over the past year from helping disseminate important information throughout the community to running what has proven to be a very successful campaign for City Council. All right, let's go. So Braxton, I've seen you in the community, deep in this community for some time now. I've seen you at protests. I've seen you at council meetings, committee meetings, hearings. I've seen you interviewing people, and doing so in a way that really shares and further develops the community. And I'm really curious about, that doesn't just happen. We don't have 10,000 folks like yourself investing their heart like you do. And I'm really curious, what's driving this energy?
Well, it really started last September 20th of 2016 with the death of Keith Lamont Scott. I was on my way home from coaching a football game, and I got a group message from a bunch of buddies from Davidson College who told me that this event had happened. A man had been killed by CMPD, and it was literally on my way home from work. So I decided to stop by. Something like this had never happened so close in vicinity and time to where I was. So I felt I've always been kind of engaged in the community. So I went and observed, and I came up on a scene that was still an investigation scene, and there was a police line, and there were many community members that lived in the College Down apartments that were either friends, family, or just neighbors of Keith Lamont Scott. And they were angry. They were angry about what happened. They were upset about not being able to go home because they were blocked from their homes, and there were some difficult conversations that were going on. I had to go to work that night, and I had a gig, and I was about to leave from the scene to go to the gig, and I heard a voice come over my shoulder, and it was really loud, high pitched, and it was a young woman who was distraught, and she started running through the crowd and was like, "That's my daddy's car." It was when they were taking Keith Lamont Scott's car out on as evidence on a flatbed, and she just came, "That's my daddy's car. Why'd y'all kill my daddy? Why'd you kill my daddy?" And you just felt everything change. The emotion of the scene change, and I felt like there were legitimate questions that were being asked, and I didn't have the answer to. And I thought about if this was my daughter. I knew my daughter already was 4 years old and was going to start asking me questions about why I was late. And I was like, if this was my daughter running through the crowd and that was my truck, wow, what would I want my community to do? And I knew there was some difficult conversations that deserved to happen that night. You know, we were able to, on that night, engage with the community, disseminate facts to people around the world in real time, and do it in a way that was genuine to the emotion of the night, but in a real effectively American way. You know, use our voices and our presence to question our government. And out of that, literally, I woke up the next day and my image was international. And I woke up to phone calls from people I hadn't talked to in years, from New York and Massachusetts, from my past. They were like, whatever happens, you need to go back out there the next night because you were showing us things that other people weren't showing us. You were saying things that needed to be said and weren't being said otherwise. So I felt a sense of duty to my neighbors and my community, and in the immediate days following, and in the weeks and months following, to figure out what my role is and what I need to be doing and what I'm purposed to do is a role of a citizen journalist disseminating facts so people can determine truths, but also a subjective activist where I amplify the voices of others and my opinions that people have found certain solidarity in. But in order to do this, I feel like I have to, one, be genuine, but also be accurate. So in order to be accurate, you got to stay present. You got to continue to learn. You got to continue to understand the needs and wants and situations of the community and the people that, you know, I'm serving. Mm-hmm. So the only way to do that is to continue on. It's either you do it all the way, or you don't do it at all. You can't do it halfway, you know?
That's a powerful calling. As you engage with the community, what kind of issues are you seeing the community getting up in arms about?
The death of Keith Lamont Scott, it was a spark that lit a fire in the city. But the fuel to that fire wasn't just that incident. That spark lit a bed of tinder that had been building in this community for generations. And the reason that so many people were out on the streets in the days following, and why those groups were so diverse, was because so many different people and groups and causes were able to connect the systemic inequities that are present in our everyday culture that led up to this tragic event. College Downs, we know more now about the inability for poor people or marginalized people and working class people to move up economically. While there was an important task force report done this year, there's an older task force report on poverty specifically that showed that College Downs is one of the most inequitable neighborhoods in all of North Carolina. You know, these people were able to tangent to draw connections to the way people with needs, special needs or disabilities, are treated in the system and experience systemic violence. We're able to, you know, when we talk about people, even I saw folks that were advocates for gun rights, you know, out there saying that this was not an excuse, and even if he did have a weapon in an open carry state, you can't be compelled to either become a criminal and, you know, by not displaying your weapon, or die because you do. You know, there were so many different connections that you were able to draw to this event you know, the actual protest itself, the violence that came out of it. What I experienced was that violence from the protesters only came in response to violence from the government when they started. So you have to question, well, what is the role of the government? What are you supposed to do when the government smacks you in the face?
When the police, whether they use loudspeakers or they have a show of force, that collectively sends a message and changes the whole dynamic of what's taking place. That is a violent act.
What a lot of my kind of philosophy has been grounded in is this idea of that we exist in a democratic republic, yes, and we are a system of rights, and we have this Constitution. But the Constitution is up for interpretation, and the main point of the Constitution is to protect us from our government, to give us tools and methods and exactly what we experience when the days following September 20th. These were conversations that, or concepts that, while we like to talk about it and maybe study it, we don't get the opportunity to really touch it and feel it with our hands. And that's what happened is okay, when our government gets impatient with our gripes against it, is it okay for them to squash it? Or do we have the rights to stand up as long and forcefully as is needed, using our voices to get sufficient answers? I think the patriotic scholar, will be able to tie a lot of evidence from historical texts and documents to say that you stand up.
Right on. As you're out and about, what type of activities are you seeing people engage in?
The conversations are changing. The people that need to amplify and agitate are agitating. The people that need to lead from within in our corporate boardrooms are challenging certain conversations. Look, I'm running for office, and not to pat myself on the back, but we're all talking about policy and changes of the law. So we are finding ways to get more people to the tables that are able to actively influence the policy making and the lawmaking. There are people that are finding their legs and finding their feet. So we need to be patient, but we still need to be, very demanding and appreciate where change comes, but also not let up. We got to keep our foot on the gas. But it's a fine line, right? We don't want to employ the tools of our oppressors, right, by breaking each other down because, the people that are breaking other people down that are doing the work because of frustration, because it's not good enough. We got to do what we can do to our fullest, If we stay in our corners, we just stay siloed in our corners. It's not necessarily agreeing with one another to compromise your own personal values, which you're able to have, but finding where, like you said, what you're doing, how that it can affect what somebody else is doing in a positive manner. One of the metaphors that I use, and I heard along on the path from some panel that I went to, is that, look, if you get the Catholic diocese in a room with Planned Parenthood in a working meeting, it's probably not a good thing or effective thing to put abortion on the table, to get them to agree to something on abortion. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that you can't get those two in a room to work to something that they can find common ground on. Maybe it's be access to health care for underprivileged women, or cervical cancer, initiatives. That's probably what you want to put on the table with them, because we can find, and that be effective. It would be pointless to sit in there and argue. It might be good theater, To see them argue over abortion. But do we want to be entertained, or do we want to get the work done?
Exactly. Let me ask you this. From what you've been seeing, do people need special degrees, big bank accounts, connections with the corporate elites and the ivory towers we have throughout this town, this state, this country? What special tools, are special tools required to make a difference in the community?
When you have a direct representative government, you can't. Every republic before the United States has failed, and that's usually when the individual citizens, as a group, give too much of their rights up for comfort and convenience, and the institutions grow big. And so, to hold your direct representatives accountable, we need to be excellent in all areas, right? Like we can't just have the strongest army, because we'll depend on somebody else for our food. We can't just be the best farmers, you know what I'm saying? Because we'll depend on somebody to protect us. We can't just have the greatest schools, because then we have nobody to protect us and we can't feed ourselves. You have to do it all. And the only way to do it all is for each citizen to do what they do it well all the time, even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's inconvenient, we have to do it. If sometimes it is stepping out and speaking amongst and for the people. Sometimes it is writing a check. Sometimes it is just keeping a good household. You know what I'm saying? For your family, or to teach in the schools, or be the doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like, do what you can do and do it well, and even when it's inconvenient. What
one piece of advice would you have for the organizer out there, or the person who wants to make change in their community but just doesn't know where to start?
Be your authentic self. Find out what you do and do it well. Don't try to be somebody you're not, but also just let people be people. Understand that, we exist in a system that is based on supremacy and marginalization, that many of us at this point in time kind of live in a certain duality where we benefit from supremacy over different people. But we also can find ourselves marginalized. And so is everybody else that we walk around. And so this might sound cliche, don't judge people, take people for what they are, but you just gotta let people be people, especially when it makes you a little uncomfortable and inconvenient. We all have it, man. Nobody is a saint. Yeah, and you hope not to be the devil. But we all got both of it in us. So be yourself and let other people be people.
All right. Braxton, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your work. Keep it up. It's very important to give people as much information as they can get in different channels and different avenues, so they can determine the truth as they see it. We need more people like you as well. So
thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. This interview was conducted the day after Braxton secured the second highest vote count in the Charlotte City Council primary for the 4 open city council seats. This is what democracy looks like. Questioning our government, challenging deeply entrenched systemic ills, while, understandably not for everyone, running for office for the purpose of fostering real change. Yeah, all right. Okay, next up, Austin Haynes is an active member of the vibrant and acclaimed Asheville music scene. Austin stopped by to share one of his spoken word commentaries on the human condition. Spoken word is an art form that has been used to speak truth to power throughout human history. Listen carefully to how Austin weaves many aspects of the human condition through metaphor, symbols and verse, calling out both the relations of power and the need to stay woke.
Thank God for this EBT, because big business don't really care to see me eat. That's why they got their CEOs making a killing off the fact that you can't feed your seed. What you don't see to agree, we rock a house full of shit that we don't even need, sitting for hours at a time by the TV screen, soaking in what somebody else wants to make you see. And then we wonder what killed hip-hop. I guess the answer is right in front of your eyes. And it runs just to keep the cycle turning in the favor of the powers that keep running our lives. They're killing our motivation and free will, keeping us in lust with poverty's thrills. When we love again, that's when the meek shall inherit what is now ran by the hand of evil. Money is the root to the scheme still. Don't fall in love with it, for it can never be real. Never give you that look that's in your love's eyes, or give you joy like what we really seek will. You will no longer take me on your ride through magical skies, made up lies and unicorn fields. The delusion is over. The music is so to the point that you could never tell me my force failed. Let's go. Let's go, let's go. Let's study up on the past and let it go, let it go. You can show me a few twigs and maybe a couple branches, but you can't hide the forest and wish they all grow. And you can't hide piles of shit before they get big and overflow the way you live. So the artists keep painting, the music's radiating and overtaking all of the streets in the air you sniff. It's in the heart of the wino, the soul of the soldier that's rushing in with his eyes closed, the high dosed cancer patient on chemo, the victim of circumstance in the faces of the people. The good die young, the peaceful get shot, the innocent get locked up with other people that's not getting shape and find a life purpose through reading a lot and end up shedding light on people who want to see it or not. For my folks, I got a soul full of optimism. When it's cold, I got that place to go and pot the piss in. The river's talking to us, we just gotta stop to listen, put it in drive and get the shift about the part position. That's if you needed a metaphor, better keep your eyes open so you know what you're headed for. They hide the truth from Baghdad to Singapore. Record labels do it too, they know what you're singing for. Do you know about the powers of confusion, or the connection between magic and illusion? We eat the shit that they sell us, then we wonder how to pronounce the ingredients on the food that we're choosing. Heads cloudy, I've been doing too much boozing. Neighbor died, a new family moved in. Work sucks, I'm overloaded with stress, so I try not to think about the world that we're losing. Sometimes I feel as if I've done too much. Other times I feel as if I don't do nearly enough. The evil hide and rock a good disguise, talk many a lies and try to speak as if they're one of us. They walk amongst us and study where we're living at, get us to buy what they want us to and give us nothing back. Off the rack, backtrack it back to the factory and you'll see how they masking this modern day slavery and how we actually funding this stuff too. You would think that we would learn after everything we've been through. The rent's due, so it's back to the workplace again. I hope it pays off these dirty conditions I'm staying in. It don't matter if you numb your mind. You can get off of work and go home to rum and wine. If drinking is the curse of the working class, then they got us where they want us under perfect design. So let's go, let's go, let's go.
So, have you written any poetry, performed spoken word numbers, or maybe attended a poetry event like, well, 100,000 Poets for Change maybe? Well, try it sometime. And you can always catch up with Austin on social media, and definitely you can catch up with him meandering his way through the just hot Asheville music scene. I mean, whatever he likes there. Now, since the 80s, the American economy has continued to increase in efficiency and value. However, clear statistical evidence points out the fact that the corporate classes have not compensated the working class by sharing accumulated wealth through proportionate raises, or even, frankly, an entry-level living wage. Instead of a social contract with our communities, what has been labeled wage theft has dominated the at-work paradigm for the majority of Americans. The sense of duty to workers and their families has all but disappeared from many business sectors across our society. Working together with one another is the only true solution. After all, history shows true benevolence is not generally a virtue of the corporate elite. Here's a taste of reality from our friends at Fight for 15 in Denver, North Carolina.
It's important to organize because numbers is power. And not only is numbers power, but knowledge is power. So the more that individuals that organize and come together get a better understanding of what our legislators are doing and how to combat that. Why 15 is an issue? Everybody deserves, this is America, and the American dream is to work and be prosperous and to be able to provide not only for yourself, but for your family.
We need to organize for 15 so that people will have something that approaches a living wage, to be able to house and clothe and feed their families or even themselves, go to school. And we need to organize because we have power in numbers.
To me, Fight for 15 is major, and I'm a part of it because it's what I stand for. And if I speak out for one person, then I feel as to where I'm speaking out for everyone else that has a voice but hasn't been heard.
It's important because people can't survive on $7.25. It's a poverty wage, and no one who works full-time should live in poverty.
Organizing means a lot. You know, people living for years in the poverty and thinking like we can do nothing. And when you tell you organize, it means the future.
It's important that young people can survive and raise their families without having to work themselves into the ground, to be able to provide a nice home, food, clothing, so they can live and raise their children in peace. That way, everyone survives. Everyone has a good life, and everyone can move on and enjoy what they have, 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 what they have.
Well, that's it for episode 2. This program is not produced for a mass audience, so we really do want to hear from you. Help us by sharing this program on your timeline. It's the only way anybody you know will see it. That's the only way. And please like the Truth to Power for You Facebook page. That really helps. Closing for us is Nashville's own songstress of the people, Annie DeChant, with her meaningful song, Out There. The writing in this song is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the use of real-life historical events to show that change is possible. It's just brilliant. So, hey, see you next time, and get out there.
People thought they were off their rockers. They'd never get that airplane off the ground. Till one morning out in Kitty Hawk in that Carolina sky, she flew 12 seconds before she came back down. Then people thought the sky was the limit, that going to the moon could not be done. But when the eagle landed, that brave space cowboy took one small step and proved everybody wrong. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little out there. A seamstress from Montgomery, Alabama, stayed seated on a bus and took a stand. That brazen little move caused a revolution. She broke every boundary when she wouldn't budge an inch. So if you think that you won't make a difference, that what you're trying to prove is too bizarre, remember it's the dreamers, the do-or-die believers that march right into history just being who they are. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little if I